Hello, and welcome to Best for Women Live, the podcast. Joining me this week is Sola Oluwole, and I'm really excited about our conversation today because we're going to be talking about all things related to life. So it's going to be fabulous. For those of you who haven't met me before, hello, my name is Brooke Gordon, and I'm the host of Best for Women Live. We're a podcast that talks about leadership and business development and stress management and all the things related to that, because we know that those topics are related and they underpin one another. So we just sent her that invitation and she's popping in. Fabulous. Hello, Shola.
Hi, Brooke.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
And how are you?
Very well, very well. It's a beautiful Monday, lots of great things happening. And I have been so excited about our conversation today, so I'm delighted to have you here.
Same here. Happy to be here. Thanks
You're,
for having me.
you're welcome. I want to pause for just a moment to say how much I love your background. I know that's real, it's not an image. And every time I talk to you, it's a little bit different than the last time, so it's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying my hands on interior decor, so yeah.
I think it's excellent. Your taste is one that I definitely is appealing to me, so that's perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Shola, welcome. I wanted to take a moment to invite you to introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about you to start.
Yeah. So again, thanks for having me here. My name is Sola Oluwole. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a career woman. I'm passionate about women development, and it's expressed in different things I get my hands in. I am the founder of 3Gs. 3Gs is Growing Gorgeously into Greatness, and it's dedicated to helping women fulfill their purpose here on earth. I work with a bank, and I've been with the bank upward of, I think, 4.5 years now. And I get to help entrepreneurs, especially diverse entrepreneurs, to fulfill their dreams.
Okay, amazing. So many beautiful things in there. But I want to start with the name of your organization, Growing Gorgeously into Greatness. That is a powerful statement. What made you come
Thank
up with the
you.
name?
So I was just thinking of what the group represented to me and to the women that are in the group, because I started it in October of 2012. It did have a different name at the time, which also meant 3Gs, right? Three different Gs. But I thought, I think it was around 4 years ago, I saw that the group was morphing, and I thought, what do we stand for now? We stand for growth, we stand for greatness, and we're going to do it gorgeously while at it. So that's how we feel about the 3Gs.
I love it. Tell us a little bit more. What kinds of things do you focus on in the group? What are some of the
Yeah.
areas of passion or the areas of focus?
Yeah, so I like to say that we have four pillars of F's. So the first one is finances. So we talk about personal finance, we talk about business finance, we discuss amongst ourselves, we have guest speakers around that area. The second one is friendship. So we're keen on networking, facilitating networking amongst the women within the group. One of the pillars of the group also is faith. We're very much it started as a faith group, right? So even though we are not only focused on that, that's also still a strong pillar of the group. And then the last one is fulfillment or fun or whatever, just letting each person express who they are in the group. So those are the four pillars that we have in 3Gs.
Oh,
Yes.
I love that. I'm actually hearing five. So finances, friendship, faith, fulfillment, and fun.
And fun.
And it is a lot
Yeah.
of fun. I've had the honor and the pleasure to be part of that group. And one of the things that was probably one of my most fun was when I won the scavenger hunt. And being able to coordinate, this was during the pandemic, and being able to have an event like that where everyone could participate, and it was so much fun. It was activity based. It was, we laughed the entire time. And it was a total coincidence that everything on the list happened to be within reaching distance of me. Bizarre. But it was just so fun to find ways, and the creativity that you bring to that group has always really impressed me.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy you still remember it. So I'm glad we're making a difference.
100%, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
So in terms of those pillars, how does that shape? Because there was some of the things that you and I talked about, we're going to talk about sort of life, but you talked about the development of women. So tell me a little bit about some of the areas for you that you've really been focusing on in your life and in the lives of like in ways that you can develop women.
Oh, personally, I've been focusing a lot about my mental health. I've had some challenges recently, and I've had to look inward and strengthen myself all over again. Maybe I should talk about, there was once I was at a bridging program, when my family newly moved to Canada, and I told the story of how up until the morning before that program started, I had nowhere to put my kids, and my kids were, I think, maybe 4 and going to 2 at the time. It was during the summer, so schools were not open. All the daycare that we reached out to were full, but we both needed to start that program that day. And even up until that morning, there was nowhere to put our kids, but we were getting ready, hoping that something would open up. And just before we set out, one of the daycares called us, and we were able to put our kids there and then start the bridging program, which of course jump-started our careers in Canada, both me and my spouse. So having told that story, the woman that was coordinating the session was like, oh wow, you're so resilient. And resilience, up until that time, resilience isn't a word that I would use in describing myself. So it took me a minute to digest that. But, when I got back home, I began to reflect on my journey, both career-wise and otherwise, and I began to see the common thread of resilience. And when you are going through the thick of it, you don't feel resilient, okay? You feel like your mental health is being battered, but I see when I come to the other side of whatever challenge it is, I reflect and I say that, okay, resilience was actually a thing, something that I held on to. So for me, working on my resilience, working on my mental health, and also my physical health, personally has been one that has been keen for me. I also have been exposing myself to materials when it comes to financial empowerment, knowing how to manage my finances, being a bit more on top of my finances personally. And those are the things that I'm also reflecting in 3Gs. I've heard stories of women that maybe rely too much on their spouses when it comes to finances, or maybe weren't so exposed to financial management growing up, and then they find themselves in very difficult situations. We don't want that to be the stories of the women in 3G. So that's why we incorporate discussions around financial management. Where should you put your money? How should you be on top of things, whether personally or in your business, right? So that's another area. And we recently had a meeting, because we meet every other month, right? And the last meeting, the pillar was faith. It was faith that we discussed, and women from all over the world joined. Like, we had panelists from Europe, from the Middle East, from Africa, and even though we were all in different locations, the experiences were similar. So we each shared how we express our faith in those different geographical locations, and also empowered others to be a bit more confident in themselves and in their faith and what they believe in. So yeah.
Okay, that was a lot to unpack, and I love that.
That was a lot.
But what I will say is, what I love about you as a speaker is you know what you stand for. And so here you are, you're talking about finances, you're talking about your personal fulfillment and making sure that you have yourself cared for, talking about the connections with friendship with the group, and then leaning into faith. So I love how these, 4, maybe 5 apps have really, like, they're what you're leaning on. And I want to acknowledge that, because not a lot of people are so crisp in their messaging.
Oh,
So
thank you.
well done.
Thank you.
The piece there, oh wow, there's so much. So the resilience, do you have a definition for the word for you, or your own personal definition of what resilience means?
I think for me, it's getting up after being beat down. You know, it's not just staying down, no matter how many times you fall, getting up again. Because I think there's a saying that you only fail when you fall and you don't get up or something like that. So for me personally, irrespective of the challenges that you face or whatever life throws at you, it's getting back up again, picking yourself up and getting back up in whatever shape or form it looks like. It might not be the way you expect it, but just picking yourself up again and going at it. That's what I would say is the definition for me.
Oh, I I had a couple of images to my mind because I think of some of the movies, right? And you have someone who's either had a physical assault or, and they've got like the wound and they're still going. And so you were saying like, whatever form that looks like. But then there's other examples that are not Hollywood that are real in life, like,
Mhm.
trying to find daycare and just having to keep going and keep making calls and thinking about career and things that you had hoped for or we
Right.
have hoped for, right? And they set us on a different path than we had expected,
Mhm.
and just that ability to pause, regroup, and then just take the next step, whatever that's going to be.
That's right. And I do actually have an example of that in my personal life.
Tell me.
So in my 20s, I had just bagged my master's degree in development finance, and I did pretty well. So I was very proud of myself. Coincidentally, it was around the time I got married as well. And my husband had gotten a job in the Middle East, so I packed my things for love, starry eye, bushy tailed, moved over to the Middle East, expecting the world to fall at my brilliance, and all that. And, just saw career wise, especially in the development field, because I've always been passionate about, development finance and things like that. Even though there was a development bank there, I just didn't get the opportunity to join them. One of the well, two of the challenges were one, language, it was largely Arabic speaking, and second was it's just women generally, don't quite thrive there. As at the time I was there, things might be different now, so and it took me back a bit because I wasn't expecting that at all. I was expecting that based on my merit, I would be able to achieve my dreams, and it wasn't playing out that way. I did get other jobs, not in the field that, I was looking to get jobs. I was still doing finance, yes, but not, development finance. And I had to find ways to just pivot, right? And it was in those periods that I began to look inward, and I discovered my creativity around cakes. I've always been interested in art and a little bit artistic, but I never thought about cakes as a way of expressing my passion for art. My little daughter turned one. A friend of mine decorated her cake. I observed that. I was like, I can do this, and I just started watching YouTube videos and practicing. And that's how my business was born. And out of that, I ran a thriving cake business, doing wedding cakes, birthday cakes, and all that. I never would have understood that part of me if things went the way I expected, if you know what I mean, But I had to find a way to just, make the best of that situation. And I gained the skill, and I got to know myself a bit more, and I made money while at it.
Okay, those are two beautiful statements together. I got to know myself a bit more and I got to make money at it. But what I
Yeah.
love is, you started us off talking a little bit about your passion for interior design, and here you are talking about cake decorating. And so that creativity, that artistic piece, I mentioned how creative your events are. So has that artistic piece been something that you have nurtured from your youth, or is it something that has just sort of appeared over time?
Mm. So I think my parents noticed it when I was a girl. I attended a Montessori nursery, and they helped us to just express ourselves. And it was then I began to have an appreciation of colors and, drawing stuff. And as a kid, my mom used to bake as well. And
Mm.
then she didn't have like the luxury of all the colors that we have now. So she would only have the primary colors, and she would rely on me to tell her what to mix to get
The little drops. I remember there'd be a little chart with the number of
exactly,
drops.
you
Yeah,
know.
okay,
So
yeah.
she'll be like, so what do I need green? Shola, what do I need to mix to get green? And I'll tell her you need to mix blue and green. So she involved me in what she was doing, which made me feel important, which encouraged me. And so it was a theme that has been all through my life. Even in uni, I would do like self-portraits, not the best, but
Mhm.
I would keep doing it. I also expressed it through making jewelry and training some of my friends to start to make jewelry as well. So it's something that, I think I've nurtured over time. And the expression keeps changing. The way I express it keeps changing, but it's still there. Like I mentioned beads, I mentioned cakes now, interior decor, but it's still there. Yeah.
I think that's a really valuable piece to pick up on because oftentimes people think, oh, well, you do so many things, right? You do cake decorating, you do interior design, and you're doing portraits, and it's and from the inside it can be no, I'm just doing one thing. It's just that I do it through different outlets, but it's
That's
only one
right.
thing.
Exactly. And for me, I had to come to that point because I was also beginning to question myself. Am I not focused or am I all over the
Mm.
place? Right. But I had to reflect and see that it's still the same thing. It just has different expressions. So yeah, I
Oh,
made peace with
oh, that's good. That's good.
it.
Some of the other things you've mentioned, you've talked a little bit about your spouse and being having a family. So
Right.
is there tell me a little bit more. So how does sort of marriage and family factor into your life and development?
I think it's if you choose to be married, it's important that you have a supportive spouse. It's not everybody that wants to be married. I wanted to be married, and I was lucky enough to get somebody who is very supportive of me and somebody who is a true partner. And who is also kind because there are times that I'm not able to carry on, and he's able to step in for me and support me, encourage me. Times that I'm disappointed, he's able to do that. So having someone that I trust be along the journey with me has been very instrumental in my personal success. And also having someone that I can go back to say, I have a frustrating day, somebody I can, vent with at home has been very I think helpful for me, having that constant because I've moved quite a lot, right? So I was born in Nigeria. I was raised there. I had my master's in the UK, so I moved there. Then when I got married, I moved to Qatar, and then now I'm in Canada. So my friends keep changing, right? While I have tried to keep some of my friends steady, things just keep changing. But one person that has been constant through that is my partner, and I've been able to rely on that relationship, for encouragement and also for the hard truths, right? Because your spouse sees you the best, right? They see your blind spots and are able to tell you, okay, these are areas in which I think you need to modify things. And yeah, I think it's for me personally, it's been a blessing. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And are there ways that you have also had outlets of your different activities that you're involved in, or how does your marriage tie in other ways in your life?
Okay, so I'll give an example. We volunteer with our local assembly, like a local church, and we also, from the lessons we have learned through our relationship, are able to help people that want to get married, right? So the leadership of the assembly reached out to us to say, "Oh, we think you'll be a great couple to guide other couples, that want to get married or are married or having challenges." And so it's been an outlet for us in not just helping others, also reflecting over our relationship to see the areas in which we also can improve. So it's been an outlet, but it has also been a blessing to us, because we also learn from the couples. We see that, oh, these people, they do this. Maybe we should incorporate that into our relationship as well. So that's one area I think that we have been able to find an outlet for the success that we have experienced in our relationship. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. You started off with a very important distinction of for those who choose to be married or those
That's
who
right.
want to be married. And you also mentioned about moving around the world. And as you know, Shola, that's one of my experiences as well. I was born in
Mhm.
Canada and I live here now, but I've lived in other countries along the way, growing up in England and in California and Germany and France, sorry, Germany and Japan. So lots of different places to be, and having those friendships. And there are those that you find a way to bind to, and then there are those who come in and out of your life, and then
That's
there are
right.
those that you want to stay bound to, but it becomes harder. And I
Mhm.
mentioned this because I was listening to a news program yesterday, talk radio, and they were talking about climate change and how there are some people who said, I'm not going to be traveling again. I don't want to contribute. I don't want to take a plane if I don't have to. I'm happy to stay more geographically bound where I am, which can put a strain on family or on relationships that have distance. So are there ways that you've been able to maintain, like what are some of the ways you've been able to maintain the friendships outside of the home to be able to
Mm.
sustain them over time and across geographies?
That's an interesting question, because I still have friends from my high school, back at home. And I would say reaching out, consistently, even when it seems like the person is not exactly reciprocating. It's not like I'm forcing myself on them. I know that maybe they're busy, or they're not as maybe great at keeping in touch as I am, and I found that when I do that, eventually we get to a point in the relationship where the person wakes up and like, yes, I want to keep this friendship. So for me, being proactive in actually reaching out to those people and, having regular touch points, checking in on them has helped me to develop strong relationships, even though we are not in the same geographical location. I have good friends also from my uni days that, we communicate all the time. Thank God for WhatsApp. We are able to chat and do video calls and do that. And whenever we get the opportunity to visit one another, then we do that. But I would say that outside of my marriage, I have some critical, strong friendships that I don't joke with. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I also, well, I'm will say that WhatsApp is newer in my life. And so there was a time when I actually used to write letters, and I still sometimes do. Like I'll still have friends that I'll write a letter to.
Oh,
Um,
that's sweet.
yeah, kind of fun.
Yeah.
In terms of those development pieces, so you were talking about being able to be involved from a marriage and relationship perspective. You've also mentioned a little bit about sort of your childhood development. What are some of the ways that you've gotten involved in youth development?
Okay, so when I was in the Middle East in Qatar, I was involved in a youth group, as a leader of a youth group in an organization that I volunteered with. And I dealt with teenagers from 13 to all the way to 19. And weekly, or I would say regularly, almost weekly, we'll come together and discuss matters that are important to
Yeah.
them. And what I realized was that the constancy and the regular touch points developed trust, such
Mm.
that they began to share things that they wouldn't even share with their parents with me, right? And I took that opportunity to pour into them, to guide them, to share my own mistakes with them, and hope that they don't make, such mistakes themselves. And even though that's been over 6 years now, I still have some of those now adults reaching out to me and saying thank you for that period. I literally had one reach out to me on Saturday on Facebook. Now she's married, but I was able to make an impact, and I'm really grateful that maybe now that they are older, they can see that we're not just being overbearing, that we actually had their interest at heart. So yeah, I'm grateful for that opportunity that I was able to support and guide and be sort of a mentor to those young people, and most of them are thriving and are doing well now. And I really do look forward to getting such opportunities also here. One of the plans I have for 3Gs is to find a way to partner with maybe a youth organization here in Canada and maybe have some sort of buddy system or mentoring or whatnot. So we'll see how that plays out.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Jola, I'm hearing a theme. So, we talked about your 3Gs network that you've created, 3Gs International, really focused on developing women and giving them space to be able to come, to be vulnerable, to share in their resilience, and to be a strength to each other during those times.
That's
You,
right.
you've talked about the incredible work that you've done with youth, through volunteering, through really taking the time and energy. I love that expression, to pour into them, to create these lasting relationships and lasting impact on these young people's lives. You've talked about how your spouse and you have reflected and taken your ability to have a true partnership, a friendship, and many moments of joy embedded in that to support others at the assembly. And so what I'm hearing is this ongoing ability to lean into your gift of mentorship and leadership. And so tell me a little bit more about some of your influences. What were some of your influences to lean into being a leader and a mentor?
Mm, that's interesting. So I would say one of the strong influences in my life is my mom, right? I would talk about my dad too, but he's passed on now, but he also had a strong influence in me. Both my parents actually were giving people, and not just in terms of material things. They gave of themselves. They gave of their time to people. They were always there to help whoever needed it. And my mom especially, she has a very strong personality, but she also has a tender side. So observing her over time, seeing how passionate she is in helping people and how she goes out of her way, to help people, I think sort of, sparked that desire in me as well. And also the leaders that I've listened to over time, the books that I've read, and just knowing that this life is not just about you. If it's just me, and me, then at the end of the day, you leave no legacy, right? So, me deciding to not just live my life for myself, to help other people is hoping that, at the end of my life, I would have left a legacy, of pouring myself out to people. So, in terms of influences, my mom, my parents for sure. Some leaders that I've listened to, an example is David Oyedepo, Miles Monroe, Sam Adeyemi. Some of these are leaders from Nigeria. John Maxwell is one that I've listened to closely as well. And um, Atomic Habits, the gentleman that wrote that book, that's a book that I go to very frequently, very often, for me personally, for self-leadership, and then to be able to help other people. There's a gentleman that wrote the 5 a.m. Club as well, Robin Sharma. I really enjoyed reading that book and how it also is about self-leadership and then helping other people. So things like that have had strong influences in my life and the way I position myself.
I really like how you've made a distinction, because it's self-leadership first before you can be a leader to others. And oftentimes, we've all met people who are so giving, but it's giving to the point where they'll run their own cup empty for others.
Mhm.
And there's almost a self-sacrifice component to that. And so you're involved in so many things. Again, from the outside perspective, from the inside, it's many different facets and expression of one thing. But how do you set healthy boundaries, or how do you define when is enough so that your
Mm.
cup doesn't run dry?
I actually got very close to my cup running dry about 2 years ago. Because, I just kept, raising my hand, okay, I'm available here and there and there. And I realized I needed to dial back. So I almost went to the other extreme of saying no to everything. But eventually I found like an equilibrium. So it's just prioritizing. Like for me is key. What do I want to achieve? And what organization or what avenue can help me to achieve that, right? And also being very conscious of my capacity. Like,
Mm.
what can I do at this moment? What can I give? What if it's just 1 hour a month I can give, that's it. That's all I can do for you, right? So being very aware of my capacity and prioritizing. Definitely my family is priority, my career is priority, my peace is priority. So anything that doesn't play into those things or threatens those things that I have to say no to. And it took me a while to be able to say no because I'm not very comfortable. I wasn't, I should say, not very comfortable saying no. So I had to get to a point, to be able to say no and say no in the nice way, or even sometimes just confidently and just say, I'm sorry, I'm not available at the moment. So just prioritizing and evaluating my capacity have helped me to draw those boundaries.
Oh, that is fabulous advice. And I love the connection to capacity, because it is not sustainable or to be sustained, then it starts to threaten or harm the things that are important: your health, your priority to family, your priority to career.
That's right.
I love
Yeah.
that. Do you have any final words of advice, any final thoughts that you wanted to share?
Um, I would say starting one's day right, because our we don't just arrive at a particular, I don't know, age. It's from minutes make days, or seconds make minutes, minutes make days, days make months, and all that and all that. So for me, it's important that I take charge of my morning, and it sets the tone for my day. And how do I do that? When I wake up, I say my prayers and I do my workouts, and I also prepare my mind for the day, and that just helps me. I carry that energy into the day, and it helps me to have, even when things that are not very pleasant happen, which may often happen, if we're being honest, it helps me to bounce back quicker than if I woke up with, like not having direction for my day. So that's one. The second one is my attitude. We can either have the attitude of grumbling, complaining, seeing everything wrong with everything, or have an attitude of gratitude, trying to see the silver lining in situations. Things will always work out the way we planned it. We have challenges are part of life, but, just trying to see the positives, and having an attitude of gratitude through whatever challenge is, I believe that is very instrumental to living or leading a successful life, or a fulfilling life, more like. Yeah.
Oh, these are excellent recommendations. I love this. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today to have this phenomenal conversation. I love how meandering it's been. I love that we've touched on leadership, we've touched on health, we've touched on self-development in so many different facets of life.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. To everyone who's joined us, thank you for your time, and we'll see you next week on Best for Women Live.
All right. Take care. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.